Of course, both genders are needed because they're half of the original whole. They're half of the original androgyne before the human was split into two parts, which is what we find in the Gnostic Gospels. Very early Gnostic Gospels, okay? That androgyne was hermaphroditic, was masculine feminine until these negative forces were like chunk. We're splitting them in half, which is what the story of Adam and Eve is. It's a distant and distorted memory of the fact that the two genders were once united. We need both genders, and right now what's happening on Earth is the healing of all the acrimony between the genders that has been put upon us generation after generation over thousands of years by these negative fallen angelic forces, okay? And so now a lot of people who are really trying to have relationships work and come back into partnership through therapy, through this, through that, are doing sacred work.
Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence. I am your host, Bernard Beitman, MD, psychiatrist and metaphysician in both its terms. I'm very meta about being a physician. And one of the places to be meta about for me is about the divine feminine. I went to a workshop, breathwork workshop, holotropic breathing one, about a year and a half ago, and toward the end of it, I was touched with divine love, and it felt to me like it was the divine feminine that I was connecting with. I had never felt such joy overflowing. I was crying. I didn't know that I could hold that feeling in. It was so bursting out of me. And with that, I made a connection that has stayed with me in smaller ways, less dramatic, but somewhat constant. So I've been very much tuned to understanding and experiencing the divine feminine. And we're fortunate to have today a woman who, to me, represents the divine feminine right here on Earth. And I will introduce her to you now. Her name is Marguerite Mary Rigoglioso. Is the founder, and she's the founder of Seven Sisters Mystery School, which is dedicated to the history and practice of divine birth. Yeah, divine birth, without the guy kind of birth. And a celebrated pioneer in the revival of Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, many other Marys, and many other representations of the divine feminine, as well as the womb mysteries, particularly with her books, The Secret Life of Mother Mary and the Mystery Tradition of Miraculous Conception. Through deep communion with this parade of Marys, the Pleiades and the goddess Sophia, Marguerite guides people to reclaim their sacred voice, intuitive power, and soul calling. Welcome to Connecting with Coincidence, Marguerite.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here. And is it okay to refer to you as Bernie, or do you prefer Bernard?
I prefer Bernie's great with me.
Okay, perfect. Well,
Bernie's.
thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I'm glad that you're here, partly because just last week I had my house full of very divine feminines. Two of them, one stayed for a week and one stayed for 2 days. They're both here at the same time. And then a third one came for a Shabbat dinner on Friday night. So I had all this wonderful women, divine. They're all in touch in different ways, in my house, and I'm still feeling the energy burst from that experience.
Oh, beautiful.
It really is, and it's part of what I want to be able to talk with you about. Let's start with how Mother Mary found Marguerite a house.
That's right. Yes, a coincidence story, which I consider a synchronicity story. I don't think there are coincidences. I think they pretty much are synchronicities in the Jungian sense of and what does he say? An acausal connecting principle.
Yeah.
Uh, but so this story is that back in 2020, at the height of a global health crisis, when that some people will recall, that when real estate was at a premium and the prices were starting to really escalate and inventory was low, I was looking for to buy my first house, and this would have to be something of fairly modest means. So I ended up, I'd lived in California for 20 years, and I ended up going on a road trip and returning back to the East Coast for what's ended up being 6 years now as of this recording. But at that time in 2020, the year previously, I had already started looking for a house in either the Hudson Valley, mainly the Hudson Valley of New York. And now this one I decided, no, I think far western Massachusetts is better for me. And so all told, I had seen about 100 houses, either had walked through or had gone and done drive-throughs or drive-bys. So when I walked in the house, it was a very cute, little kind of fairy house in a way, 1,150 square feet, well-kept yard. It was the blaze and glory of summer in July or in June. And I walked in and I could see that the owner had kept it very, very nicely. And although it was going to need some things because it was built in 1949, it had good bones, probably the best that I'd seen, and certainly a wonderful offering in my price range. So I walked through the house with the realtor was selling the house next door. That's really what drew me up to this town because I wasn't planning on going this far north. But she was very nice. She just let me in. This owner was selling it privately. And so the realtor took me through both houses, and this one again, was very tidy, good condition. And we went and she took me into the office area of the downstairs. And the woman had set up basically a shrine with a kneeling stool from the Catholic Church, and on the wall, images of Jesus and Mary and so forth. And then she had a little altar, and on there was the exact same prayer card of Jesus and Mary with the Sacred Heart that I had been given years ago. And it was basically the go-to only portable altar item that I had brought with me on this road trip from the West to the East. And so it was something that I was still using because I was kind of renting at the time. And I just looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, Mother Mary wants me to live in this house. I didn't know it would be so far north, but that indescribable moment of seeing that and like the veils parting and you knowing that the universe is saying, this means you, pay attention, was happening to me. And then, of course, the seller's name was Mary. And she had a devotion to Mary and Jesus, Yeshua. And she said, after I got things in motion immediately. I just knew to make the offer, and she agreed not to show it to anyone else over the weekend until my realtor could come. And then when I did purchase it, we signed the contract like a few days later. She said, I'm going to leave Mary and Jesus in this house for you. And that is exactly what has happened. And there's, of course, a much larger backstory in that I had just completed a week previously the 3-month process of doing what's called charging the mantras of the holy womb chakra system from ancient times, traceable to India and other places, that the late Hindu saint Sri Kaleshwar said was a practice that Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Jesus had used. These very same mantras, or strings of prayers, and the yantras, the sacred diagrams of the holy womb and so forth, the universal womb. And I had just finished the process of charging those mantras over a 3-month period. And that is aimed to clear your womb of any past um, abuse, any past partners, any, anything that you don't want in your womb, illness, that kind of thing, and to stoke it up, empower it for you to be able to manifest things in the world, create healings for others. So it was just the week after that that I found the house. And I felt that that was part of the synchronicity, that timing. And that's not something I realized until months later. And I put it all together and I said, oh my gosh, those mantras were going to work. The Marys were going to work for me. Yeshua was going to work for me. So, and of course, there's larger and larger backstories of how it is that I'm connected with Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, and Yeshua to begin with, and so forth. But that's the little nugget of the story.
Oh, thanks. And it's nice to hear you use Yeshua and not Jesus. And how come you are using the Hebrew rather than the English or whatever call?
Right, right. Well, because I'm trying to get at and if for that matter, we could call her Mariam or
Yeah,
Mariam.
yeah,
No, I stick with Mary because it's a little, but Jesus has some baggage associated with it that I don't want from institutionalized religion that has
yes.
around him. Whereas he originally was Yeshua or Yeshua, however that is pronounced in the Hebrew, in the day when he would have walked the planet. I do believe that he and all of these people walked the planet a little more than 2,000 years ago. So I use that because it refers back to his ancient and original name, which then connects him with the ancient spiritual traditions that he
Yeah.
would have been part of, the Essene tradition, the Nazarene tradition. There were many of these esoteric spiritual traditions happening in that part of the world at this time. And he really was a mystic and a major teacher, as was Mother Mary, as was Mary Magdalene in those lineages. So that's why I use Yeshua.
Oh, that's good. I respect that and appreciate it for the reasons that you're suggesting. Yeshua is another pronunciation that I'm used to.
Mhm.
Uh, Now, as you talked about empowering the womb, I don't got one of those.
That's right.
It's it's a marked difference between you and me, um, and this divine masculine, divine feminine thing had better be coming together more often than we've been able to do. But what what I what I heard actually from the first time, and you were saying empowering the womb is very much a parallel to the way men talk about empowering their particular version of that, their own sex organ.
Yeah.
It's like power up the penis kind of thinking. And this is so refreshing to hear about powering up the womb in a kind of parallel way.
Yeah, well, both need to happen. And incidentally, Bernie, Sri Kaleshwar was very much um, an a teacher of the fact that the male still has the womb fragrance in his body, particularly through what he called the Nada Bindu point, which is a floating energetic point about 1.5 inches below the navel. So that is in men as well as women, and it is a core, it's very near the navel in a sense. It is a core almost portal by which both women and men can sort of travel into and access Divine Mother. All right. So men are not left out of this process or these practices. And there are numerous men who have charged the mantras and gone through the holy womb chakra system process, okay? Because it is empowering for everyone. What Kaleshwar said was that, however, women have this energy more strongly within them, which is why most of the ancient gurus and so forth would always be connected with women in one way or another. And he says that men can connect with Divine Mother through women's wombs, through their mother's womb, through beloved's wombs, okay, those that they are connected with romantically or sexually or even friendship wise. So there are many, many ways that men have and access this power. So this is not about segregating and creating more division between the genders, but just raising the womb up to where it needs to be after millennia of suppression and denigration. And yeah, we really want the womb and the phallus to come together in more ways than one.
Yeah, that's, I'm doing that. Um,
Blessed
I,
be.
it's, I recognize the wonder and the beauty and the energy in the divine feminine, and to have this house full of estrogen energy, which is the name I give to it sometimes, is like it charges me up as well as charges them up,
That's
and
right.
having them together um, also charges each of them with their own version of the feminine energy.
That's right.
I also find that I can do the connection with the moon. That when I'm outside at night, and especially lately, it's been full, and be able to feel the connection with the moon is another way to feel divine feminine.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. And also in these holy womb chakra practices, once you charge the mantras for the rest of your life, you are meant to, at the full and new moons, do one mala of the main mantra, the Mula mantra, and to draw the sacred diagram or yantra of the holy womb, burn it as a means of keeping your womb purified. So there's very much that understanding of the connection with the womb in that tradition as well. And of course, many traditions around the world have spoken about that or practiced in that way with the moon.
Yeah. Um, One of the ideas you have uh, about synchronicity is that synchronicities are part of a larger evolutionary dialogue between humanity and the divine feminine lineage that you serve. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, I realized at some point a couple of decades ago that I was like a queen of synchronicities. And that was the primary way in which the divine or my higher self, or however we'd want to conceptualize it, was communicating with me. Because I've had many synchronicities over my lifetime, and they are the language of spirit writ large. They are a primary communication mechanism. Um, it because you feel it as a miracle, and that puts you in touch with the divine nature of everything. And it puts you in touch with the fact that there's more to life than linear time and three-dimensional uh, belongings and material plane things. And it it returns you to the space of wonder, because you literally do wonder, how could that have happened? That is remarkable. That is definitely a message to me. So the more that people understand that coincidences, and then again what I'm calling these synchronicities, are there to wake us up, to give us the message there's more than meets the eye. You are a blessed person, actually. You are cared for, you are seen. There's higher hands and larger orchestrations going on than appear to you. And this is a moment for you to recognize that. As people open to that, open to those communications, then we are opening to the divine feminine, the divine masculine writ large, the workings of the universe itself. And as we open to synchronicities, acknowledge them, write them down, they expand, they become more frequent. So then you're realizing you're in a communication mechanism with these forces. And, you know, people have had this experience when they work with tarot cards and things like that. They start developing a relationship with the tarot cards that is more than when they started. Um, and that could be in service to themselves and service to others, right? Doing readings. So with synchronicities, it's the same thing. It's like working the clay of the universe in your own life. And what I realized, and what I realized in like sacred medicine journeys is, in some senses, everything that happens is a synchronicity, if you know how to read that. And the more we realize the multiplicity of synchronicities, then the more we expand our consciousness and go into our acceleration, what some people call the ascension. For example, meeting someone random on the street, if you started talking to them, you would begin to understand what your connection was with that person, why you met them at that time. And then if and as you're able to open to your understanding of karma, the Akashic records, past lives, you'd be able to understand, oh my goodness, I have karma with this person. Like Rudolf Steiner would say, you have no idea how much karma you have with each person you encounter in your life, even in the grocery store, you know. And so it's a two-way street. As we talk to the divine by opening to synchronicities, more of them come. And as and our consciousness opens, and as our consciousness opens, we realize there are far more synchronicities than we ever knew happening in our lives all the time. That is what I call evolution of human consciousness.
I would add to that, it's a lot of fun too.
It is. It's so miraculous, and it brings us to joy,
it's,
delight,
it's,
wonder, mystery.
yeah, it's like a lot of us think we're in our own movie. I mean, we're the stars of our own movie,
Yes,
and
we really are.
and so no coincidence, no story is a old proverb, supposedly Chinese. And so you get a lot of coincidences. It just tells you more that you're in your own story. There's a point you made about um, running into somebody on the street. Uh, the clue there for our audience, and you know this, is that you got to ask.
That's right.
It is so important to ask
To
and that
engage.
to engage. And so
Yeah,
that means you have to be in touch with our intuition, which has a feminine quality to it, which is to say, hey, Bernie, go this way or go that way. Uh, and that tells you maybe I should start talking with this person. And I like the ones that say maybe it's time for you not to be talking with this person
that's
that I
right.
have been talking with, because there's part of the synchronicity, you could call it, that means no, you've gone to the limit with this person. You've seen that you've evolved beyond that person with whom you've had a modest relationship. And now it's time to like let that gently go.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Um, yes, absolutely.
Well,
And sometimes we encounter people that we've had negative karma with, and you can
yes,
intuit that it's related to what you're saying. You can intuit that, and you might say, whoa, okay, this karma is complete. I don't need to engage with this person
yes,
further. Thank
yes.
you. thank you, universe and higher self, for showing me that the karma with that person is complete. So I didn't have to incarnate with them in my family line or as a partner and, relive something. These are all ways, like, because everything that happens is like a map, it's a story treasure trove of your life.
It's a treasure hunt,
Yeah,
a treasure trove. You might be looking for it. And here's where some people get in trouble, because they do just what you're suggesting, that they're all over the place. They're happening all the time, but they can't process them.
that's
There's
right.
like too many coming in,
That's right.
and they become flooded with them. And this is the negative consequence of a self, an ego, because you need to have an ego just to mediate between yourself and the world. Gets flooded with too much information and too many connections. And I'm a psychiatrist, I've seen manic people seeing all kinds of connections, but not being able to make sense of them.
Yeah.
And so there's a stability required to be able to do what you have just described, which is there's a lot of them, but you have to be discerning in which ones to, like, oh, there's one, or here's one I need to respond to. This
Yes. Yes. And it's important to be grounded, like
It's important to be grounded, yes.
literally from your chakras, to send that grounding trunk into the earth daily. And especially if you tend toward manic behavior, or, just getting all air up in your head and getting overwrought with things, you want to have that grounding trunk from your central channel into the earth every day as a part of your opening morning or a meditation, and feeling literally your feet on the ground.
And actually feeling your feet on the ground.
Yeah,
I go out on the grass in front of
that's
my
right.
house and put those feet on the grass.
It's a very important practice. It's
Very,
and the other thing, Bernie, that facilitates both the advent of important synchronicities, and the integration of them, is having space and time. Because most of us are running around, right?
running
So
around.
we've missed the five people on the bus, or, the one person in, Bloomingdale's or whatever.
Oh, Bloomingdale's now we got, huh?
Marguerite just went to Easton, Mass, the Chestnut Mall. There was the Bloomingdale's there.
Really?
That is where to shop. I mean, you cannot get something like that over here. Anyway, so so because we're so um nervous half the time about money, that money magic system keeps us running,
Yeah.
sometimes running in place, in the hamster wheel. And we don't even have the spaciousness to realize, oh my gosh, look at what just happened, or to even be attuned, or to be intuitive, or right,
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is part of, the slowing down of
Yeah.
humanity is part of what's needed, so that we can have these synchronicity maps pop up for ourselves and be able to handle them.
And I'm going to add the slowing down is important in another way, that when I'm having trouble trying to arrange a Zoom call with somebody who's a guest, to be a guest on my show, I've got to, like, calm myself down and be able to, like, okay, this is like I got all my stuff running around that I can
Yeah,
not go like that with,
yeah,
um, but I know that I need to be able to calm myself down so I don't start firing off in all different directions, so that
yeah,
I can see through all of that morass of
yeah,
of vibrational negativity for me,
yeah.
see through to the end, which I'd like to have, which we have right now.
Yeah, or you encounter the other person's stuff and they're extreme
Oh
running
yeah,
around. They're running around, like we had that experience, and I'm in the process of transmuting my life to not be that way.
yeah, good for you.
You
It's
know what I mean? Like
me
there,
too, me too.
yeah, various things in place now to have more spaciousness and not be flying by the seat of the pants half the time.
Yeah, and be able to center yourself, ground
Yeah,
yourself, and then see what the options are, and not project and be paranoid for me. That's what I do. It's like, and like make up stuff and get mad and
Exactly. When
uh,
it has nothing to do with you. You
and
know what I mean?
nothing to do with me.
Oh,
But it
that's
has everything to do with me. Yeah,
what, yeah, well, that's
until
what
it
we
doesn't.
always do when we get upset or we see other people's behaviors and we start taking things personally,
Yeah.
right?
And it's really much more their stuff and being able to see
Yeah,
that. And earlier, for younger people, are going to have to learn this earlier than it's taken us to learn how to do this. That
that's right.
this projection of your own thing onto other people, which is
That's
another
right.
subject that we may get into. But another question that I have for you, Marguerite, um, for you and your Marys, like quite contraries, how does your garden grow? Uh, with silver bells and cockle shells and who knows what else
Yeah,
is in there. Um, I, s- I am well aware that for the most part, women don't need men. I mean, it's they can make babies with the sperm and get it and make it or not, as you are so well versed in.
that's right. There's another way as well.
There's another way. If you want to read, if you want to read Marguerite's book, you can read any one of them. She'll tell you about the parthenogenesis, as
Yeah,
a scientist might call it, but
yeah,
birth without having sperm in there to make the baby.
yeah,
And it's a long process that needs to be more time that we're going to have here to describe how the womb can be prepared, as Mary's was, to
yeah,
have Yeshua be born there.
yes,
And that's a power, I mean, that women have that men don't.
yeah,
Um, I'm giving birth to books.
yeah,
And it's kind of I'm going through the beginning contractions of it as it's going through toward the end of it, at least of the draft. So I can metaphor what a woman does,
yeah,
but I don't have the way of creating life the way a woman does. So
yeah,
my question really is a fundamental question of mine and maybe other men is how do men who are in a way irrelevant but in a way essential, the irrelevance is what I want to mention. How do we relate to the divine feminine?
right. I mean, there's so much to your question and to the answer. What I want to say is that, when I first started researching divine birth as an authentic shamanic practice of women that has gone back thousands of years, that the Marys were part of, but it's well beyond them. And I talk about that a lot in some of even my earlier books in ancient Greece and so forth, Egypt. Um, I was again, doing some medicine ceremonies and was received the message, do you want to use this information to divide or to unite? And, you know, I said, yes, I wish to use this information to unite. And meaning, especially the male and the female,
Yeah,
on the planet, that this is not about talking about a way that excludes men, because I'll tell you how it did not exclude men in when it's practiced in its high way. Um, Nor is it meant to make men feel irrelevant now, nor is it meant to suggest, hey, women, let's all be doing parthenogenesis, meaning conceiving without male sperm. You know, what I have said about doing is showing how this is a practice to bring in a high level avatar. So as you're saying, it requires a lot of training, preparation for the woman from the time she's a toddler, if not sooner, earlier. Um, Specific practices, knowledge, a very rare breed type of priestess. Okay. Not all priestesses were, have been or will be connected with this practice. It is a role to bring in a very high vibrational star being. Now, we are all star beings. And Sri Kaleshwar talks about a way that couples can bring in what he calls a divine child. That's part of the Holy Womb Chakra system that I talked about. There is a 2 mantra sequence that a couple can engage in, one while they're having union and the other when the woman becomes pregnant, to engender this, what he calls divine child, a child that would be at a higher vibrational rate, right? So there are means. Now, in the ancient tradition, parthenogenesis, or virgin birth without any male actor at all, was not the only form of divine birth and conception. There was also a tantric means where there was a very clear sexual union between usually a priest and a priestess, okay, or a king and a queen or something of that nature. So there's a spectrum from all the way from solo conception and birth all the way to tantric conception and birth, sacred marriage, eros gamos, and various things along the way in between that involve a woman engaging with an out-of-body being. So that's not parthenogenesis, but it's an out-of-body being through using a sacred dildo to support that practice. Okay, so there's like a continuum. Now, in even the parthenogenesis practice, the virgin birth without any male activity at all, the priestesses, it seems, through my research with Mother Mary, Elizabeth, the mother of John the Baptist, Sarah, the mother of the biblical Isaac, and others, they always have a partner who is like a guardian, and he's not really a conjugal partner. He is more like a protector guardian. So always the role with these, let's say, Essene men is to hold the container for the woman. When Mother Mary's mother Anne parthenogenetically conceived Mary, which you can find about in the infancy Gospel of James, Anne was having this conception ritual at home in her garden, and her partner Joachim was out in the desert doing a vision quest. And both of them were working with and being consulted by angels. So he was holding the energetic space for this to happen. And so there is that very much that yin yang role, even in divine birth. So the males and the females are never separated in this practice as we fully come to understand what it is. All right. So that's a little exposition about the roles of men. And of course, in this life, without divine conception at all, of course, both genders are needed because they're half of the original whole. They're half of the original androgyne before the human was split into 2 parts, which is what we find in the Gnostic Gospels, very early Gnostic Gospels. Okay, that androgyne was hermaphroditic, was masculine, feminine, until these negative forces were like chunk. We're splitting them in half, which is what the story of Adam and Eve is. It's a distant and distorted memory of the fact that the 2 genders were once united. It comes down to us as, oh, Eve came out of Adam's rib, of course, twisting the whole, birth story of what it would even be. But that means that was the moment when the genders were separated as codified in the Hebrew Bible. All right. But it's in the Platonic stories, it's in the Gnostic, texts and so forth. So, of course, we need both genders. And right now, what's happening on Earth is the healing of all the acrimony between the genders that has been put upon us generation after generation over thousands of years by these negative fallen angelic forces. Okay. And so now a lot of people who are really trying to have relationships work and come back into partnership through therapy, through this, through that, are doing sacred work, because it's become the War of the Roses, to refer to that old movie. It has become very difficult to be in partnership. That is a plague on the planet. And that is what we are healing, as you are honoring the sacred feminine and delighting in the women being in your home, as we are all, coming to every time we have a reconciliation or a healing or an understanding with our partner, our male or female partner, we're doing that work, right? And so this union, love union, return to love between the genders is very, very important right now. It is very much a part of the Marian mission, the Yeshua mission, the Sophia Christos mission. Okay. So I just want to say that men and women are needed and relevant at this time for this great spiritual.
Well, I hope so. I know, and I also know so. Uh, the I during this time with with the women around me, I had two experiences. One with one each of feeling like one body and two minds,
Oh, wow. That's so
and
beautiful.
that is an experience that is in the direction that you're trying to help people get to be. It's really a back to that androgyne that you're talking about, which I heard as a Platonic myth a long time ago. Each of us looking for the other half, and that other half comes in many forms, is
It
what it
does.
turns out. It's not just one person. It can be more of them. Now, I have another question for you. Since I've been looking at polarities as I write a book about the future of humanity.
Yeah.
It's called Psychotherapy for Humanity. And
Hmm.
I'm looking at the polarities that exist on this planet. Um, and part of those polarities are that almost everything has a shadow. Where there's light, there's shadow. So, what are the shadows of the divine feminine?
Well, the shadows of the divine feminine are the things that we all have rattling around in our mind, the Freudian energies of the feminine that just gets to be too much, too overpowering. She's fallen out of balance with the masculine. She becomes domineering. She becomes castrating. She becomes denigrating, right? So that's one shadow. And there are apparently, and feminine beings of this nature that have come into existence, on the astral plane. And whether they are self-created, whether they are created by negative forces that have hijacked the feminine, I don't know. But yes, I mean, there's the shadow side to each anything on whatever level of the hologram, be it personal human or divine. If you're in polarity, I mean, if you're in a duality universe, which we are in right
We're
now,
right here, baby. We're right
right
here.
here,
It's all
it's so
polarity.
painful, so
Yeah.
painful. But we are learning through duality, polarity, how to unite. And then we're going into higher dimensions where those polarities soften until the final polarity is, guess what? Love and light. That's the only polarity you got at the higher dimensional level. So that's where we're moving
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah. Well, and you can use the polarity, then what we call the shadow, to help elevate the light part of it. It's a lesson to be able to learn and hold that tension
That's right.
in yourself
In yourself.
as well as with someone else, but within yourself. Because I'm also more in touch with my feminine,
Yeah.
which has been a real transformation for me as a football player and athlete and also stuff like that. But
Yeah.
uh, that's an important part of it, and that's what women get to teach. I get to learn from women what it feels like to be feminine
Yeah.
and to be able to put myself together in that androgyne that we're talking about, so each of us can become that, and so that I can have relationships with women where I'm the girl and she's the boy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
those are you get a little. It happened on the dance floor with somebody, with me,
Yeah.
where I became the girl and she became the boy, and we split apart because it was like a little too hard to hold, but
Yeah.
it was there.
And those dance floors are great places for exploring those energies.
Yes.
It really, you can just dip in and dip out and see what is it to move with masculine energy, feminine energy. Um, yeah, I mean, there's so much to what you're saying. Um, the ancient Gnostic sacrament of the bridal chamber was designed to help people reunite their androgyne,
Oh,
or
oh,
develop their seeming polarity. Okay. And that was a very, very important and deep, multi-layered process that the person would go into, because what you're uniting is the masculine and feminine within. That's the bridal
yeah.
chamber.
Oh, that's the bridal
Um,
shame.
it should
Yeah.
be the bridegroom chamber, really, is what it should be. But that was the parlance of the time. So, um, in a way, what I've learned throughout the years is that it's very important for each individual to come to wholeness in themselves in order to have the most successful relationship with another person,
Yeah. Oh,
whatever the gender.
yeah. What
And so, yeah,
whatever the gender, and what you just implied is that boys need to be able to learn how to love boys, that men need to be able to
right.
love men and be able to have that a form of love that they can do
Yeah,
together. And again, on the dance floor, I dance with some men, and it can be very close
yeah.
as we can love each other in that physical proximity as we move together.
That's so beautiful. I think that there have been such negative messages given to men and women about um, looking at all feminine in any way, which means having your yin qualities come out,
Yeah,
or even having affection with men.
yeah,
There's such a taboo against that it becomes very anxiety provoking for some men
yeah,
to go to down those roads
yeah,
because of that severe programming. So we have to understand, what is the programming? Where does it come from? What are the voices in that programming? How have I internalized this? How can I liberate myself from this? Because those are jails, those are prisons. When men
yeah.
become hyper
Masculine.
masculinized,
Yeah,
it's such a prison for them. Like,
yeah,
where is the rest in that? Where is the enjoyment? So,
yeah.
we're in such a process, and it sounds like your book is going to be fascinating.
I hope so. Right now, I'm writing about love and
Absolutely.
its many facets. And the
Yeah.
section I'm getting to are the shadows of love, of which there are many. Uh,
Any, we've all
so,
lived them. The minute you start having a parent or a partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend, there it goes.
there they are, and r- r- running into them and recognizing them, doing something with them, leads me to what could be what we what we talk about for the rest of the time, and we have about 15 minutes here, is one of the problems with men and young men and older men and all kinds of men, but the social media is making it worse on guys playing their video games with each other, is that a lot of males have not learned how to talk with females.
Yeah.
Females are much better at talking
Yeah.
than men, period. It's just, it's the brain and children, and they talk with each other all the time. And one of the women that was visiting me and I were were lying on her bed in my house, talking like it was a sleepover, a girl's sleepover. And we just wanted to keep talking, and we'd have stayed up until the dawn. But I said, then we got to do some more stuff tomorrow. And that's the first time I realized what fun those sleepovers are. Just like
Yeah.
can be. It's like
Yeah.
all this, yeah, this talking. I said, how do they do that?
I
And
know.
and
It's
they do it. And with her, it was just we just loved it. And
yeah.
how do men, and it's been a long process for me. I've been a student of how to talk with girls for a
Yeah.
long time because
Yeah.
I like them,
Yeah.
but you got to talk to them.
Mhm.
And I didn't know that till I was in college, that Bernie, you need to be able to talk with them.
Hmm.
It was like
Yeah,
that.
I know a basic that like, why don't we have teachings about that? We learn all sorts of things in kindergarten, grade school, high school. Wow, I mean, the basics are not there. It's a curriculum of reading, writing, and arithmetic and not communication. You
Yeah,
know? So, and
yeah.
hearted engagement. Um, it just sounds like you've been through an amazing process, and thank you for doing all that work and then
Thank
uh,
you. Thank you.
producing it into books and other teachings that you're doing. I'm sure this podcast as well. Um, yeah, the thing about speaking for women is that it's generative. It's not exhausting. That's why we can go on so long
That
because it's like a
that's
self-generating battery.
that's it. And I never knew that. It was always so much work.
Yeah. Yeah, no, a lot of men are like, "Oh my God, I'm exhausted." And I'm not saying that, we all are like
No,
could go
no,
on
you
forever.
know that some of them are just going along because they want to do that. But when you get the right ones, thank you. That's generative.
It's like a
And that
battery, a car battery that once you get it going, it
it keeps going.
regenerates itself.
I didn't know that. Now that you've named it, that's what was
Yeah.
going on
I didn't know
during.
it either, but as we're talking, it's coming in.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just think, here's the thing. I have studied literally about matriarchy, cultural matriarchies throughout the world. I was very much involved in the matriarchal studies movement led by Heide Gutner Abendroth in Germany. And studying these cultures and listening to people from these cultures, classical matriarchies are they're not women at the top, they're women in the center. Okay, and again, that protective element of the men, and they are communal. It's not a nuclear family thing, so there's no pressure on the men to provide like there is now in nuclear families, which is completely exhausting and depleting and unsustainable, which is why those unions don't sustain, and then we have all these problems. Um, but the men from these cultures love it. They're like, yeah, we are held in the longhouse. We there are not these pressures that are in the modern world, and the sexual relating is not about again the one-on-one nuclear family. It's kind of like serial. There can be a partnership. It could be long-term or it could be serial monogamy, but their main responsibility of the men is to take care of their nieces and nephews in their mother's longhouse, which is all part of a communal collective. So all that provider pressure is off. The protector energy is still there, but it's relocated, it's redistributed, among a communal kind of framework. So, the very cultural forms that we have are not conducive to healthy male-female relating. We really do need to return to these societies of peace, these matriarchal type of structures with the woman at the center, and the communal child rearing, the communal finances, and so forth. Um, so we're in a big process right now of learning, and those cultures also are not about um, they there are certain roles of men and there are certain roles of women,
Yeah.
but it's reciprocal. Like if the male is going to be the leader or the chief, the women are the ones who hire him
Yeah. That's the
and
way.
fire him.
That's the. I
So
mean,
it's like,
that was the old
right?
way. I'll pick you to be the father of my child. If that
Okay.
that that's why
No,
we got patriarchy, so guys
no.
could run it and say who they wanted, and
But it's so exhausting. It's more
it's
exhausting to men than women, I think, patriarchy.
it's frustrating in so many different ways. Yeah, in Portugal, there's a place that has a nickname of the Village of Lovers. Um,
Oh,
that's the name of a movie they did about themselves, which
oh,
fits the description that you're talking about,
uh-huh.
where you have multiple potential relationships,
Yeah.
and they have something. in there that I am so glad to see. They have this thinking, this you can talk with each other about what's going on between the two of you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
That's been your profession. I mean, psychology,
uh,
uh, that's the
it's been
whole thing.
it's been the necessity in my life is
And
what
in
it's
my
been.
life as well. My gosh, you absolutely need to develop those chops, those
You
skills.
got it's so I have to so Marguerite, I'd like to talk with you about something that just happened between us, and is that okay with you? That's that's how it starts.
That's right.
I don't have anything, or what I might have a housemate and she likes this processing, so we're going to have a time to be able to talk about what's going on between us.
That's right.
And that is that I add that to the community you're talking about because when you get people together, something called conflict is inevitable
I know, because we are in duality also,
because
it
we're
all goes together.
all those together. And it took me a long time to recognize that this is particularly virulent in spiritual groups.
Oh, yeah, they are hardly exempt. It can be even more intense, as you're saying.
It's more intense. The competition, the
Yes,
jealousy,
yes.
the not talking about what's going on really is what
Oh my
happened.
gosh, I've been there. I've been victim and perpetrator of all of that. Yeah.
Well,
It,
I'm going to use the term you may have heard of meta communication, which is talking about communication.
yeah, yeah.
And that meta communication is essential. It needs a box to do it in. It needs a time and a place, and it needs people who are self-observant enough to be able to say what they're thinking, but also a critical thing missing among women and men. Um, there are more narcissistic women in this world than I ever thought there would be. I thought it was all a guy thing. And
Uh,
there these the women who are all caught up in their own lives, their own minds, and
mhm,
will not look at the mind of the other person
mhm,
and blame the other person for something that they're participating in. Men have done that for a long time to
mhm,
women. But
mhm.
now that's part of the emergence of this evolution of feminine power. So they get to be like men in a bad way.
Yeah.
And being able to talk about that,
Yeah.
some of these women that I'm referring to would blame me for my narcissism, which I'd have, but it's reducing,
Yeah.
and not take responsibility for their part in the interaction.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's so the way it used to be with the men with doing it to the women.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a very tricky you know, knot that needs to be dissected here. And this is part of the process of all of us. It's like, what is really going on with me in this interaction? What is really going on with the other person? Can I put myself in the other person's shoes? Can they put themselves in my shoes? This is a high level of functioning that we're learning about. All
Eh,
right. And it is part of the spiritual work. It is part of what what's been termed the ascension work, because without this, we're spiritual bypassing and we're not really developing spiritually.
Exactly.
This is very much critical for right now. All the emotional issues, the trauma, wounding, and everything that comes into it. So a lot of people are learning various techniques and tools with all the couples therapists that have done some of the major, Terry Real and the Imago work of uh, you know, I'm forgetting what his name is. Anyway, there have been a number of people who've done some big chunks for us. And then there's refinements of that, also the compassionate communication. Um, and so we're all learning about these meta communication processes, and they are critical for world peace.
They are
They
critical.
are critical for personal peace, relational peace, and then to
World peace.
go out
Well,
into
well,
spiritual groups, into communities, into right.
It starts with us boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen.
Really does.
It, here's the nucleus of it all, or the atom for it, the molecule of it.
That's right.
We got to be able to say, "This is going on with me. I'd like to be able to tell you that without going, it's all your fault. You made me feel this way.
Yeah.
This is how I feel,"
Yeah.
and be able to communicate that to the other person
Yeah.
in a way that the other person then can understand what I'm saying.
That's
And
right.
and that's the fundamental nucleus for helping relationships worldwide.
It
Small.
absolutely is. And it is, we should be teaching this from day one to children. Okay.
Yes,
It is an acquired skill,
it is.
especially because of all the traumas that are upon us that we're then rattling around in our traumas.
Yeah,
Okay. And so this is all part of the combing out, the
this is,
combing out of the knots so that we can really relate again on the planet and restore Eden. It's part of restoring Eden.
yeah. It's part of restoring you. I think we can even do better, but whatever better is,
Yeah.
well, I'm finding out. So better has been this has been a wonderful conversation with you, Marguerite. This has
Thank you.
been you're,
Finally, it happened, Bernie. Oh my gosh.
it happened, and it happened very, very well. We got to some issues of the heart here using our
Yeah.
minds, and
That's the thing. That is the process, right?
that's
Oh, dropping down into the heart.
yep, and we've done it, and
And
we were
that's the
doing it.
Marys and Yeshua too. So
Hey, thanks, guys. Mary, Yeshua, and the 5,500 Marys that are in you.
that's
Uh,
right.
so, any parting words you'd like for our audience?
Oh my goodness. Just know that if you're in the thick of these kinds of relational dynamics, you are not alone and you are doing sacred work, and just keep up with it. Find all the mechanisms and means and tools and supports you can to do it, because this is the ground zero of the great healing.
And tell us the name of your book, the recent one.
The recent one is The Secret Life of Mother Mary.
And boy, is it a secret that's no longer a secret anymore.
Of the closet.
Thank you, Mother Mary, and all your friends. So it's been a pleasure talking with you, really has.
All right, Bernie, the pleasure's mine.